So I'm just making a quick video today going over how I join my models together and how I clean them up ready for printing, because a few people have asked how do I get rid of all the pit holes from the supports without losing any details, and how do I join pieces together so well and have like seamless gaps, seamless joints. So the first tip I'll give you is, if you're going to join two pieces of a model together, don't let them cure first. So these two pieces, I washed them in alcohol and then I let them dry off in the dark. Basically I just left them overnight, and then the next morning I glued them together. Once they was glued together, I then put them on the little turntable with a UV lamp and let them cure, and that gives me a perfect join that I don't even need to paint any resin over. The only part that needed a little touch up was just where they join together here. And it's important to, like I say, do it without them being cured. If you'd have let these cure, each one would have had like a little bit of a warp, and when you try to join them together you end up with a gap here and a gap here, or you end up with a gap all the way here, and you have to sort of pick whether you want the front to be the best side or the back to be the, it just makes a mess. A good example would be the Carnage model. That was a plain cut that had just joined together and I let them cure, and you can clearly see that there's a line running around there, versus doing it this way, which, as you can see, putting them together and then curing it works much better. Another tip, if you're cutting the model yourself, so like I wanted to scale this Predator up as big as I could get him. I think he's about 2 foot tall, but his legs wouldn't fit on the build plate, obviously, it was too big. So I cut his legs off. You don't want any supports on these joints, so I put supports on the top here, and then I printed the feet this way round so there's no supports here, and that way everything fits together like surgical. And you don't want to put a cut straight through the part as well. You want to put it on an angle, and if you can, put it on that angle and that angle, which is what I've done here. So they go downhill there, and then they also go downhill at the back. It's coming all the way down, and that basically works like a bit of an optical illusion. So even if you could see anything, you can only see a very, very, very small piece of the join before it starts to disappear around another detail or something. So that's how I join my parts together that I've cut myself, or that are supposed to be one object and you want to join them together perfectly. For normal joins like arms, legs, stuff like that, where you just sort of, plonk them on. For this, I'll glue them in place, and then I normally just go around with a little bit of UV resin, printer resin. I'll just paint around the gap and set that with a UV laser pen, which is the same wavelength as the curing machines. But I will join this leg in just a second. I also use the resin to get rid of all the potholes. Obviously these probably aren't going to show up on camera, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then there's a whole little bunch around the back of the waist area here. You can see them shining. And take a little dab of resin. I'm just going to take a little bit of sandpaper. That's just the alcohol white. And they're all gone. We do the same. I'm trying to find something that's more visible. Oh. Yeah, so there's some here, 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 they're all over. Someone said you should wear gloves when you're doing this. Well, if you wear gloves when you're doing this, you won't be able to feel if you've missed any dots. But if you do this right, you shouldn't get any resin on your hands. And they are all gone. Nice, smooth, ready to paint. This is also good if you want to just join parts together temporarily. So you can just put a dab of this on, weld them together at the back. So if you want to see how it looks, you can just use, like I say, a little tiny dab, set it, build the model up, see what it looks like, take some pictures or whatever, upload them to Reddit, and then take it apart again. Whereas super glue, obviously you can't do that. almost perfect. And there's a few more dots on her legs. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That and that are where it sort of circles off, so you end up with those sort of layers. And I don't want those to be visible, so I'll just paint it over those as well. Yeah, so that's how I clean up the pieces. When it comes to joining together, I use Milliput if I have to. Well, it's a mix really. So if you've got like a really small gap, like when I put join her arm on, the gap's kind of small. So once you've glued this on, you can go around with a little bit of resin, and it will do the job. But for bigger items like Predator's feet or the gap around her legs, which would be really visible, getting the resin to go all the way around those gaps without getting any onto her legs and then having to sort of sand this edge down here, it's a bit of a pain in the ass. So I always use Milliput. I also use Milliput to fill up all the holes on all my models as well. I use Milliput yellow, or Milliput standard, whatever you want to call it. I do have Milliput white, but it's very chalky. So I just want to see where the best position is for her feet. Because if you glue these on in the wrong place, you will end up with like a foot like that. Dead easy. Just because it all looks perfect, it's not, doesn't mean it's in the right place. So I'm going to put some super glue on this leg. Now, I always put on a little bit more than what is necessary, and the reason for that is because it will give you an extra few seconds pushing down as hard as I can. See, there's a bigger gap on this side than there is on this side. But she stands. So So like I say, a lot of people will be tempted now to just start slapping resin in there, but that's it's a big gap to fill, and I've had it before where everything's looked perfect and then a few days later I've cracked the pot and then resin's just gone all over the place because it hasn't set every single little piece in there, and yeah. So that's why I like Miller Pot. You don't need very much. Now I'm going to push as hard as I can. And then I'm going to drag it all the way around. I'm just going to take one of my wipes. And the wet wipe will smooth the join. But like I say, you want to have to really sort of put on some pressure. As you can see, you end up with a perfect line, perfect join that you don't need to sand. So I hope that helps with your joining your models together and stuff. Yeah, I'll leave it there and I'll catch you later.